hope you're up to date with your TBRs, because April has a fine smattering of fantastical books for you to consume. It looks like it's a great month for new releases. Starting with, of course, Brandon Sanderson's second secret project. I'm not going to talk about any details or even the title of the book, because I know some people are going in blind, but if you backed the Kickstarter, then you should be getting the ebook and the audiobook April 1st. I realise my Tress review came out a fair bit after everybody else's, and everyone had kind of already read it that was getting a copy from the Kickstarter. So I'll try and be more prompt with the second secret project and get my thoughts out, so you can decide if it's something you want to pick up or not. I have read all the teasers that he released the end of last year, the first couple chapters of each of the secret projects, so I kind of know what it's going to be about. To be perfectly honest, it's probably the one I'm less interested in of the four. But that's not saying much. I still really want to read it because I'm excited for all four of them. And it certainly has a unique premise and idea that we've not really seen from Sanderson before, so I'm interested to see how he does with that. What type of story he's going to produce. But also coming on April 1st, we have Mystic Reborn. This is the sequel to Paladin Unbound, which is a self-published fantasy series. But the thing that really stands out with this series for me is that it's from the perspective of a half-orc.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys!
Which sounds really cool, because I've never read a book from an orc's perspective before. Occasionally you get something like an elf or a POV from a character like that, but never really an orc, so I'm intrigued. Plus, Mystic Reborn has a really cool cover. I absolutely adore this color palette. Colors are really complementary. I like it. As I normally do with this series, I will do a bit of the synopsis, but for book 1, because if you read book 1, you'll know if you want to read book 2, so I always do the synopsis for the first book in a series. The last of a dying breed, a holy warrior must rise up against the growing darkness in Avelium. The most unlikely of heroes, a lowly itinerant mercenary, Umra the Peacebreaker, is shunned by society for his mongrel half-orc blood. Desperate to find work for himself and his band of fighters, Umra agrees to solve a rash of mysterious disappearances, but uncovers a larger, more insidious plot to overthrow the natural order of Avelium in the process. On April 4th, we have Engines of Chaos, the sequel to Engines of Empire. I know Elliot Brooke is a huge fan of this series, and it kind of makes me think of like an adult fantasy version of the Mortal Engines series. I might be completely off with that, but that's what came to my head when I read the premise for this. So, Engines of Empire. This epic fantasy tells a tale of clashing guilds, magic-fueled machines, intrigue and revolution, and the one family that stands between the Empire's salvation or destruction. In Grimdark magazine said, perfect for fans of Brent Weeks, George R.R. Martin or David Gemmell. The best traditional epic fantasy I've read in years. And that's high praise, and I really trust Grimdark magazine. I love their stuff. So if you're looking for a new epic fantasy with steampunk elements, Engines of Empire. And then Engines of Chaos when it comes out April 4th. On April 11th, we have Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. Fonda Lee is the super talented author of the Greenbone saga, which is fantastic. So needless to say, I'm excited for Untethered Sky. However, it is a novella rather than a full-length novel. It's only 160 pages, but it has a manticore in it. So, Esther's family was torn apart when a manticore killed her mother and baby brother, leaving her with nothing but her father's painful silence and a single, overwhelming need to kill the monsters that took her family. I'm really excited for this one, and I think because it is a novella, I'll probably just sneak it into my TBR. But I love the Greenbone saga, so I completely trust Fonda Lee to deliver with this. On April 18th, we have The Warden by Daniel M. Ford. I was immediately sold with the tagline, Twin Peaks meets fantasy. If you haven't watched Twin Peaks, the TV show, it's really weird. It's directed by David Lynch, who's known for unique storytelling. So Twin Peaks with wizards. It's going to be bizarre, trippy, and I'm so excited for it. And I know I've already been excited about the past covers that we've talked about, but I think The Warden is my favourite cover of the month. It's by the super talented Chris Cold, and it really makes me think it's going to be just what I want. There was a plan. She had the money, the connections, even the brains. It was simple. Become one of the only female necromancers, earn as many degrees as possible, get a post in one of the grand cities, then prove she's capable of greatness. The funny thing about plans is that they are seldom under your control. Old magics are restless, and an insignificant village on the furthest border of the kingdom might hold secrets far beyond what anyone expected. Alis might be the only person standing between one of the greatest evils ever known and the rest of the world. Also coming on April 18th, we have The Bone Shard War. This is book 3 in the Drowning Empire trilogy by Andrea Stewart. The first book being The Bone Shard Daughter, which I have heard praised to the moon and back. It's super popular and has a really unique bone shard magic system. It sounds awesome. I'll read out the synopsis for book 1 because I do think it sounds... The Emperor's reign has lasted decades, his mastery of bone shard magic powering the animal-like constructs that maintain law and order. But now his rule is failing, and revolution is sweeping across the Empire's many islands. Lynn is the Emperor's daughter, and spends her days trapped in a palace of locked doors and dark secrets. When her father refuses to recognize her as heir to the throne, she vows to prove her worth by mastering the forbidden art of bone shard magic. Yet such power carries a great cost, and when revolution reaches the gates of the palace, Lynn must decide how far she is willing to claim her birthright and save her people. I really like this concept of the bone shard magic constructing animal-like creatures and beings. It's such a unique magic system. On April 25th, we have Night Angel Nemesis by Brent Weeks. This is the 4th book in his Night Angel series. I've not read them, but I do know it's been more than a decade since the last book, so I'm sure the fans of this series are super excited. It's crazy to think that people have been waiting a decade plus for a book in a series. Anyway, the first book in the series is called The Way of Shadows. And I'll just jump into the premise for that. For Durzo Blint, assassination is an art, and he is the city's most accomplished artist. For Azoth, survival is precarious, something you never take for granted. As a guild rat, he's grown up in the slums, and learned to judge people quickly, and to take risks. Risks, like apprenticing himself to Durzo Blint. But to be accepted, Azoth must turn his back on his old life, and embrace a new identity and name. As Kylar Stern, he must learn to navigate the assassin's world of dangerous politics and strange magics, and cultivate a flair for death. And what's really cool is they are doing a reprint of the first 3 books with new covers to match cover 4. The downside is I don't think they're doing book 4 in the old version of covers, so if you've got the old versions, you won't have a matching 4th book, which is a shame, but just letting you know. Also coming on April 25th, we have In the Life of Puppets by T.J. Klune. Author T.J. Klune invites you deep into the heart of a peculiar forest and on the extraordinary journey of a family assembled from spare parts. In a strange little home built on the branches of a grove of trees live 3 robots: fatherly inventor android Giovanni Lawson, a pleasantly sadistic nurse machine, and a small vacuum desperate for love and attention. Victor Lawson, a human, lives there too. They're a family, hidden and safe. I really like that eclectic cast of characters. T.J. Klune is known for more wholesome, cozy fantasy, cozy being a broader term in this instance, but this also sounds just like a really nice, fun adventure. A real feel-good one. And last but not least, we have Ascension by Nicholas Binge. This is also coming on April 25th, and it is a sci-fi thriller, mind-bending story. You know, the complete opposite of T.J. Klune's work. A mind-bending speculative thriller in which a sudden appearance of a mountain in the middle of the Pacific Ocean leads a group of scientists to a series of jaw-dropping revelations that challenge the notion of what it means to be human. This sounds like quite a heavy read, but also sounds really good. It's also been tagged as a horror, so I think there'll be some darker elements to the story. A friend of mine did get an ARC for this, and she said it was fantastic. She gave it 5 stars, and I do really trust her opinion, so I think it will be a really good sci-fi mystery thriller with darker elements. I'll include Sarah's review in the description below because I think it's well worth reading. She praises it super highly. Gotta love a book-induced existential crisis. Yes. So it turns out Past Andrew's an idiot, and he missed a handful of self-pub fantasy and sci-fi books that are coming out in the month of April that look amazing. So we're going to fire through them super quick. Just April 4th, we have The Captain by Will White, the author of the Cradle series, also probably the biggest self-pub fantasy author right now. And this is his first book in a new series, and it's Space Wizards. Coming April 25th, we have the sequel to Titan Hoppers by Rob Hayes, Spire Climbers. Progression sci-fi fantasy with mechs. I haven't read book 1 yet, but it sounds so good. I'm going to read it soon. Coming April 25th, we have The Legacy of Brick and Bone, the sequel to Legacy of the Brightwash. This is a grimdark gaslamp fantasy. Follow the law and you'll stay safe. But what if the law is wrong? I've heard nothing but really high praise for this book, and it came second in the 7th SPFBO, which is the self-published fantasy blog off. This is super high on my TBR, especially now the sequel is coming out on April 25th. Next, on April 28th, we have Elder Epoch, the third book in the Gunmetal Gods series. Look at that cover. What kind of Lovecraftian monstrosity is that? They took his daughter, so Mika comes to take their kingdom. It's like Liam Neeson in Taken meets John Wick. Gods, guns, gore, greatness, and they all have covers. Also coming on April 28th, we have The Shadow Gate, the sequel to The Iron Crypt. This is epic fantasy that is very character driven, and I've heard amazing things about it. Fenn's first and only memory is finding herself in the middle of a forest, face to face with a dragon spirit mocking him. All knowledge gone, apart from his own name. Okay, those are all the ones I think I missed, so back to past Andrew. And that will do it for today. That is a bunch of books that are coming out in the month of April that I thought sounded... So let me know what you're going to be reading in the month of April, whether it's going to be one of these that you're going to pick up, or if you're just reading something completely different. My plan is definitely to read the second Secret Sanderson project, and we'll see what else comes up after that. I'm a mood reader, so we'll just go with the flow. But yeah, let me know what you're going to read in the month of April, and if you're going to pick up any of these books. And I'm Vince speaking faster and faster, and outro.